I felt
I've got 10 tools under $20 right in this box. I love them, and I think you will too. So our first tool is the tough-built scraper utility knife. And this guy comes in right at $20, and it looks like just a normal utility knife, and you can push it up and use it as a box cutter. It doesn't extend, but what it does do, you've probably never seen before. Look at that. That is so cool. When you put it up into the scrape mode, the head turns 90 degrees and that razor blade turns into a scraper. Now, I love this because I typically will just grab a razor blade and just use my fingers, and it's harder to get. I can't get as much force on it. So having this in the handle, in the utility knife, makes scraping easy. I've had this in the shop for a couple months now. Really nice. And just how awesome is that mechanism? As an engineer, I just love it. I could just do this all day, but I won't. Having a tool that can do two things in one is awesome. But you know what's even better? How about having a tool that can do 5 in 1? This is the 5-in-1 painter's tool, comes in at $9. And there was a lot of comments in the other videos about this one, and I do like it. So this is really just a modified putty knife, and so it's got a lot of little features on it though. Obviously, you can use it to apply putty on the back end, but it also has a bevel on the other side, so it is great for scraping. I use this on dry glue, whether it's on a glue up or on a table. It's got this nice little hook here at the end, which is great for breaking a caulk joint if you're removing trim. And then this is really the painter's feature of it. This little hook here is for scraping excess paint off of a paint roller, and it works really nicely. And then this end piece here is great for opening cans of finish. So we can just open this right up, and you don't need a little can opener. And those are the traditional 5-in-1 uses, but this is actually a 6-in-1 because it also has a little hammer end. And that's really cool because when you need to close up your finish, you can just use the hammer. And if 6-in-1 isn't enough, they also have a 15-in-1. Honestly, this is kind of like the Swiss Army knives, when you just start adding a bunch of different implements, and then, some of those just don't really make sense. Like, I don't think this would ever be great to have as a hex wrench, and the screwdrivers in here, which are 4 of the in-1s, are just not something I would probably ever use. So I'm gonna stick to the simple 6-in-1, but there's tons of different options out there if you wanna check them out. One thing I use a lot as a woodworker is glue, and I've got a ton of bottles of glue, and they kind of all look like this at the end. And the caps are always getting messy, and so when you have to pull it out, it kind of sticks and gets gooey, and then you gotta pick that booger off there at the top. And also, as that glue starts running down, you start doing the old Heinz 57. I think if you hit it right there on the 57, it'll flow a little bit easier, but there is a better way. This is the Fast Cap Glue Bot, and this one comes in at $8. And no, it is not the younger son of C-3PO, even though it sounds like 3PO may have been through a few glue-ups in his life.
We seem to be made to suffer. It's our lot in life.
they're not going to see you at first because they haven't seen the image. They don't know the image that I got for you yet. So they're not going to see you, but they can hear you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my first attempt at an interview of anyone. This is my mother.
Hello.
Who's feeling a little under the weather.
I actually have COVID.
Yeah, so, apologies on that. You got it yesterday? The worst timing possible. Hi, Mappa. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, I can make it a little bigger if you needed to.
Why? Because I'm old? What are you trying to
Because
say?
you leaned in. I wasn't going to say anything with this. I mean, you leaned in, so I'm going to make it a little bigger for you. Yeah, so Mom can see the chat. So, yeah, no Mom sorry jokes. Hi, Zero. How you doing? So Zero's actually the one that made the image for you.
Oh, wonderful. I love it.
Yes, so, my mother, wonderful woman, I made an image specially for her so everyone can have a representation, which is going to be really funny because my image is a clockwork corpse of a jester. And Mom is there's another artist online that I follow whose their image is like just like a gray body with like an animal skull for a head, and that's it, like in a ponytail, and that's it. And their dad that shows up in the videos is like this like really tall, gaunt, skeletal giant figure, and their mom is literally like a yellow woman with red hair in a yellow sweater. Because their mom is super sweet and their dad is an old crusty man. Nurse Ninja with dragonfly symbols. It's supposed to be like a Viking Shaw.
Gotcha. Okay. Because of our heritage.
Yes, and that is specifically, but also because like you are a strong, independent woman who doesn't take anyone's shit, and that's very Viking to me. Of like no one fucks with you because they know not to fuck with you. So yes, and some people may wonder why the nuclear symbol. So my first question for my mother is, what do you do for a living?
I am a nuclear medicine technologist. Yes, I do work in the medical field.
Yes. It is a medical mask. I very specifically asked, because when I said a mask with dragonfly motifs, they thought like a masquerade mask.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, no, I meant like an actual face mask. You do what I do, looking at chat all the time to make sure you're not missing anything. But yeah, what does a nuclear med technologist do?
It's actually a little more extension of X-ray. So X-ray shoots the radiation through you and takes a picture on the other side. I either inject you with it or have you breathe it or eat it, and you become the radioactive source, and that's how I take pictures with my camera.
So in operations like CAT scans? And
so CAT scan works on the same principle as regular X-ray.
Okay.
Mine is actually a gamma camera, so the energy level is higher with radioactivity. But my camera doesn't put out any radiation. It just accepts the radiation your body's giving off and changes it into light, which makes an image, which makes a picture.
Okay. I know you do lung scans, because I know some people know what a CAT scan is, even if they don't know the medical field. A lung scan less so, but I know you do lung scans as well.
Mm-hmm.
So any things like that people may have heard of before, even if they don't know anything about the medical field?
Probably not, only because I started out as an X-ray tech, and I never even heard of nuclear medicine until I started working in that environment. So it's really a modality a lot of people, even people who work at a hospital, don't know anything about. The other thing I can think of that's pretty critical is a GI bleeding scan, but again, it's not something that a lot of people know about.
And for the chat, GI is gastrointestinal?
Correct.
And how because this is a medical field, how long did you have to go to school for this?
Total between X-ray and nuke med school, it was about 3.5 years.
Yeah, so they're not bad compared to like other like.
No, definitely not bad, and the pay is pretty good when you're just starting out.
Mm-hmm. But you have to deal with people a lot.
Yes.
and you have to have a lot of technical knowledge on how it all works. So you deal with radioactive material
Correct.
quite frequently. What are you actually working with?
It's called technetium 99M. There are multiple ones we use, but that is the primary. Its half-life is 6 hours. Of course, you don't want to be exposed to radioactivity for a long period of time, especially at a high energy level. But as long as you follow the safety practices, you'll be fine.
Real quick, I want to make sure everyone in chat how the sound is. Cause I back my music and we can hear that they can. Make sure that's not too loud and that everyone can hear us talking perfectly fine. While they mention stuff. Yeah, you have to. You work with this is radioactive stuff. You actually have to wear a badge to indicate how much radioactivity you're exposed to, right?
Correct. And I actually wear one on my finger as well because we inject it frequently, so we handle it with our hands a lot.
So it's not a dangerous job, but there are risks to it that you'll mitigate it through.
Correct. So if I didn't follow the safety practices, we put it in a lead shield. We also put it in a lead box while we're explaining the procedure to the patient.
And those are heavy. I got a whole one. They're heavy.
Yeah, it's very heavy. But if I didn't follow those practices, like the lead shield, put it in the box, you can only get so much radiation exposure through your lifetime, and I would hit that before my retirement time would come up. So, and you can no longer work in a field where you get exposed to radioactivity if you hit that. So, but again, I've been doing it about 18 years. I've had one time my dosimeter, which is what tracks your radioactivity, came back at a high level, but they have to explain why that is. It could have been I had a dental x-ray and forgot to take it off, or somehow I got exposed to radioactivity, like I got some on my clothing or something and it got exposed for the full day kind of thing. But
and it's not like because a lot of people don't understand radioactivity, and I've had both through you and through other study that not all radioactivity is hyper dangerous.
Correct. So there's a difference between diagnostic and therapeutic doses. Therapeutics, what you get when you have cancer and they're trying to kill off part of those cells. Diagnostic is you get a lot less, as well as a lot less. It's a less the energy level is a lot less for diagnostic doses, which is what we deal with. At where I currently work, there is only one therapeutic thing we do, so we don't do a whole lot of those ones that are ultimately it does interact with your cells even at that low level, but there's not a lot of damage.
Hi, Cucumber. Yeah, we are interviewing my mother right now. We're talking about her work. Yes, this isn't any from Cucumber. She says hi.
I love all the names, actually.
Yeah, so we don't usually people that are streaming and most generally don't say the full name. We just say like a portion of the name to make it easy. So Zero, Meppa, Cucumber. She's also Tifa. That's her chosen name. Nice to meet you. Yes.
Yes, Hunter's talked a lot about his
It's totally okay.
his live streams, and he seems to enjoy it a lot, especially with the usuals.
Yes.
I've heard Zero's name multiple times.
Yeah, Zero's a good friend. Cucumber is very cute. I had a question. I don't know what it was now. I got thrown off the interview line. Better if I had these written down.
It would have been a smart move.
Yeah, but it's better that you're explaining things than me trying to guide, because already we went off on a tangent of explaining things. No, you. But we were talking about the power of the nuclear material that you use, and it's not that dangerous in single doses, which is why it's being used in the medical field. It's only that dangerous when it's used multiple times. Correct. When you're exposed to it multiple times.
Especially at the level that we do. So even like a CAT scan or CT is what it's called now, is you don't want to have too many over like a year's worth of time or 2 years worth of time.
Yeah, there's a limit of how many like dental x-rays you're supposed to have.
And for that reason, because it is damaging to the cells no matter what level you do at radioactivity, but multiple exposures over multiple times over multiple years can be a lot.
there's an interesting thing that I found out that the more powerful the radiation, if you're only getting hit by like one atom of it being not atom, but one neutron being ejected, it's actually safer than being hit by a middling energy because it goes straight through you instead of bouncing around inside of you.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. So a higher energy shoots through you at a faster rate and interacts with less because it goes straight through. Yeah. Versus something that is not as powerful, so it slows down, and when it hits your body, it slows down even more and gives it time to bang around before it leaves your system, so it interacts with more stuff. So it's ideally...
You want something either really weak or something particularly strong.
So X-ray actually wears lead when they do pictures, like if they have to help hold a baby or a patient that's got something broken and can't put the body part in the right position, so they wear lead to shield themselves from their X-rays. But mine, we don't wear lead even when you're pregnant in our field because we want it to go through our system fast. The lead would only slow it down enough to let it bang around.
Yeah, exactly. So like there's the field of nuclear science is a very interesting thing, especially when used in medicine. And you said the medicine that you use, the primary one, has a half-life of 6 hours?
Correct.
Which means...
So every 6 hours, the energy level cuts in half. So just to make the numbers easy, say it's 100. 6 hours later, it'll be 50. So in essence, in about 24 hours, if I inject you with some radioisotope, in about 24 hours, it'll be gone because every 6 hours, half of it would disappear.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stick around a whole long time.
And every nuclear energy has a half-life.
Correct.
Some of which I think uranium has something in like the millions of years.
Yeah, some of them we wouldn't hit in our lifetime.
And then some of them have literally split seconds.
Yeah, so if you've ever heard of PET imaging, which a lot of people have heard that, it's used a lot in cancer to look for tumors, their half-life is 111 minutes. So it's fairly quick, like once they inject the patient, they have so much time to use it, otherwise you can't image. It'll have decayed so much that you can't image with it anymore.
There's a whole field of study about making new elements, and once you reach there's literally a gulf in like the atomic range, and once you pass that gulf, everything decays, reaching a certain half-life, and they literally do measure that in fractions of milliseconds because they decay so fast that it becomes nigh impossible to actually register that you've made a new element.
Honestly, that's out of my depth. I don't know.
I watched a whole video recently about like people the whole like study of making new elements. Like the way that they register that they've made a new element is that when they register that they have a single atom of a new element for however long they have it, and then it starts to decay, and then they have a snapshot of that, and then they mark to see if that atom registers as any other element that we've discovered, and if it is, we didn't make it.
Gotcha.
But if it isn't, we possibly made a new element, but it needs to be reproducible. Like you have to have be able to do it so many times. But yeah, you have a very interesting field. But you got into it particularly not late in life, but not right out of like. How old were you when you started schooling for this?
I'm gonna say 28.
Which is actually younger than I thought.
Well, I say that because I started X-ray schooling when I was around 28. So X-ray school was about 2.5 years, and then nuke med school was a year. So I think I started around 28, which is a little bit later in life. So.
As someone who, because you weren't like big and like you weren't doing it for, like you wanted to be in the medical field. That was
I actually. A lot of times when you ask people in the medical field, they ask, well, why'd you get into it? And the typical answer is, I wanted to help people. That is not my case. That's not true. I mean, I like to help people, but I actually got into X-ray because I found myself a single parent, and I wanted to, after a divorce, I wanted to make sure that whatever I did, I made enough money to support myself and my son without anybody else to help me, to either get married or family or something like that. So X-ray was the shortest program for the most amount of money. But once I got into X-ray, I liked X-ray. I liked it a lot. But when I was there, I got introduced to nuclear medicine. Like I said, I didn't even know it was a thing until I was doing X-ray, and I love nuke med. I liked X-ray, but I love nuke med. Plus, it plays a whole lot more than X-ray. But it's a bonus. But.
Two things. One, to Chad. If Chad has any questions or likes to input in things, please say, and I would hope that we would like to answer. But secondly, you say you love nuke med. Would you suggest it to other people who are even remotely interested in that kind of field?
Absolutely. Now most of the time it's a 4-year program instead of going. You can do the X-ray and then like a bridge program to nuke med. But I'm gonna say we live in a smaller town, not super small, but smaller.
Notably, I think our hospital's bigger than the town really needs.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But starting pay is $33 an hour now. And we probably don't pay. I know we don't pay as well as like a bigger city or something like that.
And
so.
you have you're on call, which is that's a usual program for most.
Yes, and I was gonna say when you're young and have lots of energy, that call makes you a lot of money.
And what is call specifically?
So after hours, we do not run 24/7 in my department because our hospital is not big enough to warrant that. So after our day ends, somebody is on call till 7 in the morning until the new shift comes in. So they may potentially call you anywhere from 5:30 in the afternoon till 7 in the morning. And they pay you to be on call as well, pay you when you do the patient. But now that I'm old, that money is not as enticing as it used to be.
Yeah, so you get paid for every hour, and then if you get called in, you get paid normal work pay.
Yeah, so call pay for us is $6 an hour just to be on call. It used to be $2. That's a recent change. Although in bigger cities, I have no idea what it would really be.
Oh, bigger cities probably have a 24-hour.
Maybe, yeah. So potentially.
Speaking of like a reason why you might not, reason that you probably don't have 24 hours is how many patients do you usually get into? Like the range?
I'm going to say 12 to 14. A lot of our studies are quite lengthy, so it's hard to like pack a schedule full of people because we have 2-hour scans sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but we do have 3 cameras, as well as inpatients and stats, that kind of stuff. So, but again, it's not a huge hospital, so I'm not sure.
Oh, Eli. Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'll switch a little closer. Thank you for pointing that out.
That's Eli?
Yes, that's Eli.
Hey, Eli!
What? Oh my. So what has just happened is, so you can subscribe on Twitch, which is you give a little bit of money to be like, I want to support you. It's $5 a month. The streamer gets like half of that.
Okay.
And Vermilion has just been gifted 3 months by Professor Chaos. Professor Chaos is a madman who likes... Remember when I said that I have the rule if someone buys me a game, I have to play it?
Yes.
Chaos has been the one that has abused/supported that decision. And is consistently... has consistently done things, and in fact has given multiple hundreds of dollars.
Wow. Let's get down.
Hi, cat.
Sorry, we have a cat.
Yeah, no, they're used to me saying hi, cat, as he jumps on the thing. Yeah, I need to write down that I have been gifted. So I keep track of literally every cent that people send. And if you see someone, talking a little loud so chat can hear. If you see someone donate bits, a bit is a cent.
Okay.
Which is...
I'm sorry, I need an education. I'm not...
So if you see someone donate 10,000 bits, that's $100.
I do like your comment, Cucumber.
What is Cucumber saying?
Apparently Chaos also has plans for me. I'm slightly concerned.
Oh, yes. So the joke of Chaos is that he's taking over the world by getting streamers to do things he wants.
I see.
And he, if I remember correctly, he started with me, and everyone I introduced, like, this is the rule I have. Chaos then comes on stream and goes, by the way, new person, here's a game!
I got you.
And just gives things. And has given me really good games. And really bad games. Actually, no. Everything I've played has been fine, but one of the games he gave me was reportedly one of the worst games, like, jokingly one of the worst games made by a big developer. It actually wasn't that bad. Let me catch up on chat. Yeah. Also, hi Vermilion, how are you? The chat hat. Thank you for the abuse support. Chaos is real. Apparently, chaos has plans for me. What had I jumped into? This is an interview with my mother, and we're just discussing her primary occupation, which is a
Nuclear medicine technologist.
some interesting stories about her. Oh, you've graduated! Congratulations!
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, from high school or somewhere greater. I imagine somewhere greater because I don't think I have anyone that's... I've known under 18. So, also, yes, congrats. Oh, damn, how did I not know you were nuking things? Yeah! Also, for people that, so you know, I have a tracker up here of exactly how much I've made.
Okay.
$3,765.55 out of the $4,000 I need. Good job surviving that shit. Oh, high school?
Yeah, that's a hard deal right there.
Yeah.
I think even more so now than when I was younger.
Like, we both agree that teachers of all stripes and all levels of education need more than they get.
Oh my God, I'd be arrested and fired if I had to be a teacher.
For a very brief moment, I wanted to be a teacher. What happens if you nuke a city?
Yeah, I don't have that kind of power.
No, no. There is a small level of security on that front, though, just to be safe. Right?
Yes, absolutely. Very limited to who can get into our room, which is what we call a hot lab.
Mm-hmm.
It's very limited who actually has access. It's actually just us and security. Nobody else.
Yeah, Vermilion, I'm not sure you were here when we were discussing it, but the level of radiation is relatively small.
Correct.
And only would be dangerous in large doses or repeated doses, which is why there's safety measures. Is the badge and the ring that detects the level of radiation, is that personal protection?
So it's not protection. It doesn't prevent your exposure. It just measures it to make sure, and it's tested once a month.
Yeah, I was wondering if it counted as PPE.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I guess in a different sense.
Like a little nick as a treat.
Well, we do make you eat it sometimes.
Yeah,
so.
that's true. I had a question and I totally forgot about it. Like, literally something that was said. I was like, oh, that's a good question to follow up on. I totally forgot it.
Ooh, shiny.
Yeah, a little bit. You stated before that you did it for the money, but more because of you didn't want to rely on anyone else.
Yes.
You wanted to be able to put yourself in a position that you didn't have to rely on anyone else, and that you were a single mother at the time. And notably, we did get assistance from your father.
Correct, my dad.
And his fiance at the time, or girlfriend, wife.
Girlfriend, never wife. They were together like 26 years.
Yeah. Comically sized Nick. Do you want to talk about him?
Yes, he's an interesting character for sure. I honestly was estranged from my father till I was probably pregnant with Hatter, to be honest. When I was 3, my mom and him separated. And then we moved around a lot. It sounds like maybe trying to stay away from him.
Mm-hmm.
But as I got older, we decided to find him, which was easy. He was always out there, wanted to see us. And I was a little bit worried. I was a little bit worried about meeting him because, of course, my mother didn't have a lot of good things to say about him. But I realized as an adult, I could say "fuck you" and walk away. I didn't have to stick around if I didn't like him. But it turns out I liked him, and then I loved him. He was a very interesting character, kind of rough around the red edges, like his whole family.
And the name we usually called him, which was his nickname, was Bim.
Correct, Bim. Because when he was a little boy, of course he's older than myself, there's a song called Bimbo that he used to dance and sing to when he was 2 or 3. And he got to be a very large man. He was like 350.
Like 6'5"?
No.
6
He
foot
he was
something?
maybe 6 foot if he was lucky, but he was a big dude, so a lot of people wouldn't call him Bimbo because
Oh, yeah.
they were scared of that. So
Which is funny
Bim became shortened version.
Because the internet has a different connotation for the word bimbo now.
At welfare.
But yeah, no, Bim was very interesting. And you aren't like technical in your medical field. You're not like building the machines or anything like that. But Bim was very computer minded, programming minded.
Yes, and I am very not. And he could never understand why I didn't have any desire, nor could I really understand things that he wanted to show me on the computer. So much so that he actually built a BIM special, we called it, for Hunter. It was his first computer. He built it out of extra parts that he had, which I later blew up, so to speak. No, just the monitor. Hunter.
By pressing 2 buttons.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it has a different connotation from bimbo now. Yes. How many times it changed? Yes, old man Bim was very much the old man of like, don't touch me, I don't want to interact with kids, I don't want a pet. And then the old man, there's a joke on the internet about the old man who's like, I don't want a dog. And then the person that the dog hangs out with the most is the old man.
That's a lot like that. Hunter used to call him Grandpa Mountain because he would let him crawl over him and stuff like that. And he was a very large man, so that was Grandpa Mountain. For somebody who didn't like kids, so to speak, he liked Hunter.
He indulged my bullshittery quite frequently. I remember one time I wanted a scientific study about what the range of these walkie-talkies were.
Yes.
And he indulged that.
Yeah.
Grandpa Mountain is adorable. Yeah, because I would climb on him. He was a very big man.
Yes.
And he would just sit there.
And let him do it for somebody who didn't like kids, so to speak. So.
But Bim, he worked for the Air Force.
At the end he was a contractor for the Air Force. He wrote programs for C-17 airplanes as a contractor, even though he was a Marine.
Yeah.
In a past life.
Yeah, before he was a Marine and then became in the private sector and then became hired by the Air Force. Which, if I'm aware, this was true like 10 years ago, but I may be wrong now. They still use a version of the program he wrote.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Which is like, that's amazing. It's something that he wrote still functions to this day.
Well, and we lived in a different state when he was writing those programs, and they kept flying him to that base to implement the programs he was writing, and
so
finally they just asked him to move here, and we came with. So.
Yeah, and which is the Air Force base is like most areas in the U.S. Is like one of the or at least was one of the primary employers in the area.
It still is.
Still is the primary.
Hospital is the second.
I know it was really big. I just didn't know if it was still big. But Bim. So speaking of Grandpa Mountain, and this is one of the bits that I wanted to get to that was very interesting was the multitude of stories about the family and me that you are aware of. Okay, so they're redeeming things. Also, hi, Princess. So Neolim of the Pale, I met a long time ago, several years, as a character named Princess. So I just called him Princess. On location, so it's cheaper just to drag you between the house. Essentially, yes. But I don't know if they helped. Did the Air Force help pay for the house, or did it was just because it was easier on them?
I think they helped with the move, not the house necessarily, but they helped with the move. I mean, and came to me and said, do you want to move to Georgia? And I was like, I've never been to Georgia. And he said, that's what's fun about it, right? Because most of my family is a free spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very free spirit. A level of free spirit that often got them in trouble with the law.
Correct.
Which I'm sure we will discuss. They are redeeming. So the thing that you may see here is the redeemed stuff. There's some fan artwork someone made of, they like wiped out the mask and put a face in there as a joke. And so if they particularly want to like redeem something, no, there's no camera. That's fine. If they want to redeem, they can like, it pops up on the screen right about there. We can't see it, but
Okay.
the love Hatter is like little thought eyes, and the satisfaction is like a meme of a guy going like he's satisfied by something, and so that's the joke. Where's the other artwork Hatter? It should have popped up. No, that's not. I specifically stopped that one. You can't have that one. So there's it's also part of the fan artwork, and I felt disingenuous about having all of them but that one, but I'm not gonna allow that one right now.
Okay.
So let's go back from the go before the trouble with the law that your side of the family would have quite frequently, and go back to Bim, Grandpa Mountain, and what is that? Do you have any particular story that comes to mind in that area of our life during that time? That would be funny to tell. Oh, yes. No. I jokingly do state that I started my life of thievery, escape, and attempted arson by the age of 3.
Yeah, well, that made a little more sense once I finally met my dad and his family. So, well, to lead up to that point, Hunter was, I wanted him to be independent. So I'd always, he'd get his scooter stuck in the corner and cry, but I would tell him, figure it out. You can get it out of there. However, the repercussions.
The consequence.
The consequence for teaching your child to be independent means they're independent. So, this little boy had to be like 2.5, maybe 3, close to 3 maybe. Let himself out of our upstairs apartment in nothing but a diaper and a fun noodle, like that you take in the pool. Mm-hmm. Which we didn't have a pool, but you really wanted it one day, so I let you have it.
And it was like $1.
Yeah, it was cheap, and we were poor. So, anyway, let himself out of the door while his dad was sleeping. By the way,
by the way, so they redeemed what's known as Chad Hatter. So this is like one of the images. So there's a guy that's like chiseled jaw, like almost cartoonishly the perfect man, like super chiseled jaw, 5 o'clock shadows, 8-pack, super buff, and everyone called him a Chad. Chad being like the epitome of man. So and the guy that did all the fan art did this one. Here's the problem. All of the redeems, they disappear after about 5 seconds. Something went wrong with the programming, and Chad Hatter won't disappear until someone else redeems something else. It refuses to leave. So the joke is Chad Hatter demands to exist and refuses to leave. Oh, yeah, right here. Yeah. They changed it. So redeemed Love Hatter. So...
Well, he's real. He's a bodyguard.
Yeah. He's an actual guy. The guy that the image is about. Oh no. I forgot to. Alright, hold on. I have to do this thing and I apologize. Otta. Please don't do that again. So, Otta.
The fact that he doesn't want to do it makes me want to let you do it some more.
That's, so there's a running joke that chat loves streamers. They also love bullying their favorite streamers.
Sure.
Usually with love. So Otta in Japanese means well. But it's usually said. The original was said by a very a woman going well.
Okay.
And so it became a running joke that saying Otta really close to the mic is sensual or part of ASMR. So apparently I do it very well. So I added it as a possible redeem for people.
I love that.
I don't care.
His face looked like crap when you said that, I liked it.
It's not that I have no shame, but there's no part of my soul I won't overturn to entertain people or make people feel good. But won't make you do it funny. Voice in my ears, bullying isn't part of it. Yes, so you may notice that the points, the number on the side, that's how much it costs. That's how many points it costs, not how many bits.
Sure, okay.
People get points just by watching and being there. I think they get 20 every hour or so, give or take. And so the Otta is 100, popping up the little things is 100. So I can be bought. I hate that you're right. So yes, I escaped the house.
Yes, and that wasn't really crime, but it kind of leads you to where you did your crime. But I was at work. I didn't come home till 10 or 12, and my husband, now my ex-husband, Hatter's dad, met me at the door and threw the phone at me and ran inside and locked the door.
And this is before cell phones. This is a cordless phone.
Yeah, this is a cordless phone. Do you have to take that? I'll be right back.
So, again, almost like an ASMR thing, growling, purring is a big thing. Again, I'm not one to know, I don't find ASMR particularly interesting.
I like this person.
Which one?
Make it very low and long.
That's
please.
Princess.
Okay,
yes.
I like Princess.
Yeah, Princess is great. And apparently I do growls really well, and because I do growls differently than other people, I don't have to stop. So a lot of people do growls in a way that causes them to kind of fuck up their throat a little bit after so long, but because I roll my R's, and that's the basis of my growls, I like Hatter's mom too, I can just keep going. So unfortunately, I have to do this. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay. I need to make sure the mic picks it up. Okay. And the payday. Everyone's redeeming everything, so I have to explain payday. So that image means blushing face.
Okay.
Stream, I'm too self-conscious. I'm not actually playing the character. I'm not playing the character either. You know me. This is just me. Payday. So Professor Chaos, the one that usually donates a lot of money, uses Payday. It's a move in a video game that it attacks someone, but by literally throwing money at them. And so Chaos always says, "Payday!" before throwing money at me. So as a joke, I made it a redeem so people can scare the shit out of me with a loud noise, making me think they're throwing money at me. Most people don't actually throw money at me, but when Chaos does it, I'm expecting a load of money immediately afterwards, and it scares me every time. That's why I'm pressing slowly horrified. I can snarl good. I gotta learn to properly growl. I could explain the steps, but there's this thing. Anyway,
I forgot where I was.
Threw the phone at you.
Yes, he threw the phone at me, ran inside and locked the door. So I answered the phone. I was like, hello. And they said, this is the police department. We have your son. I'm like, wait, what? I haven't even made it in the house yet. And he tells me that my son was picked up by a gentleman on a motorcycle walking with his fun noodle down a very busy street it's a 4-lane that he had to cross. And of course he is too young to say his
Name.
well, I mean, he was like 2.5, so he really couldn't say much. And he's very distinctive. Hatter is the whitest white boy you've ever seen in your life. And with red hair, blue eyes, and freckles. So he was very distinctive. So when my ex-husband realized that he was truly gone and called, they had him already. So I was going to vomit at our stairs, even though I knew he was safe. However, the police officer made me promise no bodily harm to my husband before they would let me in the house. And he said, if I have to come out there for a domestic violence dispute, you're going to jail. Apparently, I don't know if he told the officers he was worried about my reaction or what, but yeah, so
I think it's a fair assessment in general that
any mother,
yeah. It's funny coming from a cop.
And since then though, because I taught him to be independent, like every day I parked in the parking lot across the street from where we lived, and he had to hold my hand and tell me when it was okay to cross the street. So, which I'm glad I taught him that, but he let himself.
Well, so the time that I let myself out of the house with the diaper and the fun noodle, this was back before cell phones. So that motorist, the guy on the motorcycle, stopped and had to go tell someone to go call instead.
Yes.
And you. Normally, that's where your story ends. Dad has another part of that story that I've heard him tell. My father has told the same story, which is I know is true, because he almost, not word for word, but all the steps are the same, so I know it's true. He ends it with saying that when the police came to interview him to make sure it wasn't negligence or something of that nature, the officer asked, how did he escape? And my dad leaned over the couch, looked down the hallway, and said, just like that, as I'm pushing my toys up to make a staircase up to the door lock.
Hence the hazards of teaching your child to be independent.
And that's when you put on, afterwards, that's when you put on the screen door, right?
Yeah, we put a lock way up high on the screen door, and that's what you were trying to get to when you did it the second time.
Uh-huh. Because beforehand, you caught me staring at it, holding a CB cup, going, now how am I gonna get to that? He's seriously cute as fuck. Alright.
So
lies, but I'll accept them.
We moved after that, and
that sounds like a normal thing for a child.
He did things like his dad was a gamer, and he would have marathon gaming sessions at the house. One day I came home and Hatter was laying on the couch with a bellyache, and I asked him why, and he said because he ate dinner, which was pickles and crackers.
A whole jar of pickles, including the juice.
Yep. I was like, well, no wonder you have a bellyache, because he made dinner, quote unquote.
Because Dad was too busy playing D&D with his friends.
D&D, yes. He also let himself out of the house. Well, actually, got up in the morning, and there was these candies called Bug Cities. They're like sweet tarts, but they're shaped like bugs.
Yeah.
Okay. And I said, oh, your dad must have bought you candy. He said, no. He said, I got it myself. And I'm like, where? He said, from the gas station, which was like 3 blocks from the house.
Over an active railroad track and a 4-lane highway.
Yep, again. But I looked both ways, Mom. He was so proud of himself. I got, yeah, the whole jar of pickles was horrifying. He was had such a bad bellyache.
I've stolen from a shop as a child, barely got away with it.
Well, the only thing I can't understand is how he did go down a back alley over a 4-lane road, got into the gas station.
And a train track.
And a train track, that is true. And then got into the gas station, got the candy, and got home.
Which, it wasn't an automatic door.
Yeah,
Someone had to let me in.
I don't know how
And out.
you got in and out without somebody wondering why a 3.5-year-old didn't have a
parental figure?
Yes, I don't understand that. But he was so proud of himself for looking both ways before he crossed the street that, of course, I had to explain why stealing is bad, all of that. But I was proud that he looked both ways before he crossed the street, but I had to explain never to do that again because I was going to have a meltdown. That same apartment, he almost set it on fire because he put a Big Mac.
Whopper.
Was it a Whopper?
It was Whopper. Because this was back in the day when they were still wrapped in tinfoil. We live in a capitalist society.
He put a Whopper wrapped in foil, which was this a lot of years ago, and just kept hitting buttons on the microwave, which happened to be the number 6 multiple times. 6666666.
Because I knew because Dad was asleep again, and I knew if you put food in the box
It
and
gets
hit
hot.
buttons and the green button, it gets hot.
Which our upstairs neighbor saw smoke coming out of the window and came down and took it out of the microwave, which was this hard black lump of something. So he almost burnt the house down. I can't remember the other theft. There was another theft in there. What
Was there?
that? Yeah. Well, you stole the candy bar from it's called Shopco. It's like a Walmart or something like that.
I don't remember this.
Yeah, well, I tried to take it back and explain to you how bad it was, and the guy was like, let's call the cops. I'm like, he's fucking 3.
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach him a lesson.
Don't eat any things before you get started. Yes, it was basically coal.
Right? Yes, it was just a hard lump.
Yeah, if we weren't friends with our upstairs neighbors, that could have ended poorly.
Yeah. Wait, yeah, we knew them.
Imagine if the window was closed.
I'd like to think that would have woke your dad up, but I don't know. Needless to say, we're not married anymore, and there's a reason for that. But
considering how heavily he slept, like, you caught him asleep one time watching something particular.
yes.
Adult film industry.
Yeah, well, my child was still at the babysitter's, and he hadn't picked him up yet. So not always the best situation.
Yeah, I don't remember this story about the candy bar.
Yeah, no. Well, I don't know, because we tried to take it back, and the guy was like, let's call the police. I'm like, this is not what I brought him here for.
Yeah.
I brought him to... I wanted you to learn a lesson, but then Mama Bear came out because he wanted to call the police to really teach you a lesson. He's fucking 3. He's not going to learn anything by that. So, and then Mama Bear came out, and needless to say, we didn't pay for the candy bar, and we just left anyway. Because he was an asshole.
Did you ever go back to that store?
Yeah.
Did he have anything to say about it?
Nope. I never saw him. Maybe I did, but I didn't pay attention. I didn't care. So.
Trying to think of any other early stories. So, early on.
I do have a couple, but aren't really. They're more like. They're more like, you're supposed to. I always did some learning up. When you have children, if any of you have children, you could probably back me up on this. That you always try to teach lessons when things happen.
Uh-huh.
But there's a couple things that Hunter taught me without even knowing it.
Uh-huh.
Going into this same shop that he stole candy bars from. In the parking lot, I always had to hold my hand, and one day I realized how tiny his hand was in my hand. And it makes you think they won't be that small for long. So it makes you really think about that. The other biggest one probably is we went outside in the fall, so he was probably almost 3, and the wind was swirling the leaves. and you were just giggling and laughing.
Still love those.
Running around, and of course I was stressed. I was working, had a young baby. But seeing that, teach not to seeing that is very, seeing him just enjoy that little thing in life made me try to stop and think, you know what, I need to appreciate the little things. Like, kids are so sweet and innocent. They see this and it's amazing to them, and as you get older you lose that.
They're not weighed down by everything.
Yeah, so it was one of the things he taught me, to try to like sit back and enjoy something that's there for everybody, but people don't take advantage of it. So that was one little lesson. But Hunter's always been a very sweet person, even to this day. He likes to see the good in people. One year for Christmas, being a single parent, we didn't have a lot of money. And for me, Santa brings you one present, and
Usually the one you wanted the most.
Yeah, usually the one you wanted the most. And I always gave the rest because I needed him to understand that I worked hard for that. Like, some people give all the presents from Santa, but I needed him to know that I worked hard, and he needs to appreciate those kind of things. So he wanted this. Do you remember the name of that? X-Wing or something?
I think it was called the X-Wing Dragonfly.
Yeah, Dragonfly, that's what it was.
Dragonfly.
Remote control thing that flipped and did all these like awesome things.
It was an RC car, yeah.
RC type thing, and so we went to the toy store to look at it. And I don't know how old you were, probably 7,
Something like that.
8, you know. Anyway, we're leaving, maybe even a little younger. Anyway, the stupid toy's like $80. That doesn't include the $30 battery pack.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like, oh no.
And this was in like early 2000s.
Yes, yeah. So it's it was way out of my price range, being a student, and you know. However, we're leaving. As we're leaving, he says, I said, "Oh, honey, that's a little out of my price range." And he was like, "It's okay, Mom. I'll ask Santa for it because I know it's expensive." So trying to be like, so I'm like having a meltdown in the parking lot, and like, okay, now I had to buy the fucking toy, right? Like, so of course Santa got him that toy for Christmas because he asked Santa for it. Of course, Santa was Bim. As well as myself.
Honestly,
trying to make
he
up
just
the
needed
money.
a white beard. A white beard and a red suit. Like, he had a beard, it just needed to be white.
Yeah. So even then was super sweet. But you know, those kind of lessons things, when he was probably 4, we were actually at a gas station, and I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong, a little person came into the gas station. Of course, he's 4 and points and says, "Look, Mom, he's really short," about as loud as anybody could say it. And I'm mortified because now the guy's looking at us, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I said, well, now bear in mind, he does have the red hair, blue eyes, and freckles, and he doesn't know that many people who had that. And I said,
a lot of old ladies wanted to pet my hair.
yes, that is true. And I said, well, just because he looks different doesn't mean he's any different than me and you, just like your red hair. There's nobody here with red hair, but you're not any different than them, are you? And he said no. And honestly, the guy nodded his head like, okay. So those kind of lessons, you know, I teach Hunter, he teaches me, you know. So it's, he's a good kid. Always been a good kid. But I think it's those lessons that were. However, I was very mean to him. I did make him miss Christmas one year.
So, as I've stated before, you are a strong, independent woman, and you have a standing rule that if you say something, it's gonna happen.
Yes.
And to the point of, like, if you can't guarantee it's gonna happen, you don't make a promise about it. So when you tell me that if I don't do something, I'm going to get a specific punishment, I'm going to get that specific punishment.
Correct.
So, so the punishment was that I was grounded, and grounding meant I couldn't do anything except read and listen to music.
No. Grounding was reading and drawing. Those are
Reading
the only
and
two things you
drawing.
could do. I caught him lying, and in my book, if you lie to me, you get busted for whatever you lied about, plus for lying. So I said, if you lie again, I'm going to double your time. And then if I catch you lying again, I'm going to double that time. So it went from 1 week to 2 weeks to 4 weeks to 8 weeks. So needless to say, I only caught him lying a couple more times. And I'd be naive to think that he never lied to me after that, but I think it was very infrequent. But he lied close to Christmas, and that gave him 2 weeks, and Christmas fell within that 2 weeks. So I told him he could either open all his presents and sit there and look at them, or he could wait till after Christmas to open them. But I guaranteed he very rarely lied to me again. Yeah, he's nodding.
And so when you threatened at one point that if I didn't straighten up in school, you were going to come to school and sit behind me in class and tell all of my friends why you were there when they asked, I believed you.
Well, because it was true, I would have.
Yes. Which is...
However, the one time you got in trouble at school, he's very not an aggressive person. We went to Mexico to visit some family, and he got a Yu-Gi-Oh card there that I guess was fairly rare.
Yes.
I'm ignorant about all that.
It was, for the audience, it was a Obelisk the Tormentor card. Original printing. Yeah, to always say accurate things is a thing I value too.
Yes, it's a good value to have.
Yes.
So he let this boy at school borrow it, and then came home. He let the boy borrow it, and it was getting close to the end of the school year, and he said, Mom, this boy isn't bringing my card back. And I said, do you want me to get involved? And he said, no. The boy said that if he didn't bring it back, Hunter could hit him. So I figured it was going to get figured out. But then I get a phone call a couple weeks later, almost to the end of school, that Hatter got suspended or got in-school suspension because he slammed a kid's head into the desk and hit him with his book binder. And for anybody that knew him, I was stunned. I'm like, you're talking about, and I said our full name, and they're like, yep. And I'm like, really? So when he came home, I said, you got something you want to tell me? He said, yeah, the boy never brought my card back. So I slammed his head against the desk, and it didn't seem like enough, so I hit him with my book binder. And I was like, I short of laughing in his face, I was like, So I at first didn't know what to say. I was like, well, he did tell me that was gonna happen. And so, like, I really couldn't be mad at him because this was their agreement. And so I did tell him because I'm the type that if you got punished at school for something, you're going to get punished at home for something. But I couldn't be mad at him. He told me that's what this boy and him agreed to. So I was like, well, you got to do your time at school because if you do the crime, you do the time. You know the rules. No fighting at school. And so we didn't get any trouble at home just because I knew that this was the agreement. And needless to say, he never did get his card back.
I never did get that card back. Yeah. You get from not abiding to the agreement? Yeah, no.
Fair.
And the funny thing, I never hit anyone before, at least not to my knowledge.
Well, but you were so so I slammed his head against the desk, and then you were like, it didn't seem like enough, so I just hit him with my book binder.
I never hit anyone, so I was like, and his head, he was still face first on the desk, and I was like, I don't.
Yeah, as a secondary
I don't know.
thing.
I didn't think I'd get this far. I don't know what the follow-up is. It wasn't a hard hit either. It was just like a thump.
I know, and it just shocked me because you're not an physically aggressive person.
It was the agreement because when he said, yeah, I don't have it. It was in that moment I realized
he's not gonna bring it back.
If I don't hit him, he'll never bring it.
Yeah.
Because he knows then he can just say it and I won't hit him.
So
I have to go through with it. I don't want to, but I have to. That was the agreement. Which is probably why he agreed to in the first place. He didn't think I'd do it.
Probably because that's your personality, but
I should do more.
yeah, that's basically what it
Yeah,
boiled down
because
to.
it's like I've never hit anyone before. I don't know what the next step in the hitting someone process is. When I was a tween in younger years, I would hit people with my little fake computer thing. I'd probably got in trouble for that, and it's just like I have no idea why not. So, full reference, the Shadow Wizard Money Gang is a meme online. Someone did a rap where one of the lines is Shadow Wizard Money Gang, and it makes no sense, but that's part of why it's funny, and became a meme for people just to say. And based is basically like something that's good. Like, can someone put down, like, someone look up the exact definition of what based is? Because it's a good thing. I can't exactly remember.
Yeah, Eli, I think we all were back in the day.
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%. Especially tweens.
Yeah. Man, he wasn't too bad. I've only had to lay my hands on him a couple of times. And don't get me wrong, I would if he needed it, but he didn't really need it, so...
Well, because you were one of the parents that were like, there are other forms of punishment that can be more effective.
Sure.
And, repeated spankings or whatever, or diminishing returns. And I would say that, like, eventually the groundings had diminishing returns, but I just never... Like, I wasn't afraid of being grounded. Like, I was afraid of being grounded, but once I was in, I was like, same old, same old.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. But, yeah, so, speaking of, like, interesting punishments, so when you said you would sit behind me in class, I thought it was, you would do it. What do you like to talk about, Adam?
My grandson and his family, they were in a bad spot.
Million says someone was pissing me off for half a year, and I almost chucked them out. I almost got in trouble for that, but we got that sorted out. Ever since I was young. Pretentious and obnoxious ever since I was very young. So as a tween, I got super into anti-fan of Twilight to the point that I added Twilight Sucks to my fake computer bag.
So, my grandson and stepdaughter moved into my small apartment. Well, my 3 grandsons. So we had 8 people and 5 dogs in my little tiny house, which was a challenge in itself. But they didn't have a lot of rules. I have lots of rules. If you follow them, we have a good time.
Admittedly, you have rules.
But they're for a reason.
Yes, but they're also fair. And they're not like... They are for a reason, and it's a pretty clear reason. It's not like an arbitrary rule for no reason just because you want to,
Yeah, not because I said so. There's a reason.
Yeah.
And so, the oldest one, of course, having no direction or no rules
Only a
to
few years
follow.
younger than me.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years younger than me.
I thought like 2.
Okay. Anyway, so without them having any kind of direction,
I do, yes, no.
they, we have a lot of folks. So you have to shower in a schedule. You have to be home. We have to eat by a certain time. Kids need to do their homework.
there's
Blah
8
blah
people
blah.
in the
And
house.
there's 8 people here, so it had to be very scheduled. So I would tell the oldest one to be home by 6:30, and so I finally told him he was going to be grounded a day for every minute he was late because I was tired of him not listening to me. So the very next day he was 45 minutes late. Yeah, it's crazy, Eli.
7 people and a cat.
Yeah, so you get what we felt.
Yeah,
so
yeah. We had 8 people and 5 dogs. Though one of the dogs was always outside.
Yeah.
Like literally is an outside dog.
So the next day, Adam was 45 minutes late, so he owed me 45 days, and he didn't think that that was a real thing. And again, you can only read and draw. Those are
which is like that's a bad thing for him to think. But like his mother didn't. His mother was not a person who kept to the word of the punishment.
Correct. His mom would tell punishment, but it would be over in a day, or she would just get. She would get frustrated and just let him do it so that...
I'm sorry, but... sorry, Million.
Anyway, so I went out of town with my fiance, and I get a phone call saying that he had jumped him and his little brother were camping in the backyard. He had jumped the fence to run the neighborhood with his friend. So, it just so happens his mother was on our porch smoking a cigarette in the dark when he walked by with his little girlfriend, and she was like, "What are you doing out here?" So he got busted. She called me, and I was like, "Well, he can only read and draw." So I think his point was, I'm already grounded. What is she going to take from me? So this young guy had long, luscious, bouncy, curly hair that he would spend
at least
an hour in the morning every morning primping before he went to school.
And then would say shit like, "I don't care what people think about me."
Yeah. So I gave him two choices. He could either cut his hair, and I mean buzz it all the way down, or he could stand at the street corner because our house was a bus stop with a big sign that says, "I can't follow the rules, that's why I have to wear this sign."
And then you were going to drive him to school.
Yeah. After he stood there at the bus stop.
Yeah. So every bus would see him.
Yep.
Yeah.
He chose to cut his hair. That was
No. If I remember correctly, his mom, your stepdaughter, had already went. No, he's getting his haircut.
Yes. Well, that's what he had told her he was gonna do.
Oh, okay.
So, and she took him while I was still out of town. When I got back, his hair was already cut. But that's what I told her the options were. Because this was my grounding that I had to enforce. And so she said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Don't mess with me. I will always find something that that we can make this."
Which is, to be
happen.
frank, especially with kids, like physical punishment such as spankings, like they're effective, but there's always something more effective, especially like taking away something that they want or really like, or just embarrassing them in front of everyone at school, because they will never live that down for the rest of their school life.
I'm sorry. The cat is sitting behind Hatter on the chair, and his tail keeps whipping by and hitting him in the face.
It doesn't hurt. He's just doing it. And I'm like, hi. But yes, it's always funny. And we jokingly said that we would see Hurricane Law,
which are my initials, LAW,
coming down when you drove back from your vacation, because oh boy, you don't fuck with the law. The law wins. But yeah, no, you if you say something, it's gonna happen, which was very interesting when you would like, I have a thing planned for my birthday, but I'm not gonna promise anything because I can't guarantee it's gonna happen yet. Which was good because a lot of times plans fell through, like money wise or just or whatnot. But it was very like, if you promised something, I knew it was gonna happen. And something I think about if I end up having kids, I have no idea how to punish type thing. Definitely want to be able to enforce rules and be trustworthy in that way, but I don't want to emotionally construction of wet tissue paper, so I need to get stronger about that.
I promise you it is tough, because on Christmas Day I almost gave in. I almost was like, "Oh, it's Christmas. How can I do this?" I felt like a bad person, but ultimately I know he respects me, especially now as an adult, for doing what I said I was going to do, be it good or bad, something fun or something punishment-wise. If I say I'm going to do it or it's going to happen, he believes me because I've always followed through. But I admittedly, I was in there going, "Oh my God, I can't do it."
My boy, I do remember. I always remember the story, especially about that of like a mother in a Cracker Barrel, which always has the like the gift shop there, and her kid being like screaming and yelling and wanting something, and she was like, "No, and if you keep screaming and yelling about it, you're not gonna get anything." And then he just kept, like, he stopped, and then started doing it again, like, a few minutes later, and she gave in.
Yeah, I'm so not that person.
Definitely want to be a person who can be believed, and have my word be relied on.
Sometimes to get that is difficult because you
Yeah.
have to make those difficult decisions.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I knew in the end I wanted our. Because when I had her, I felt like I was too young, but now I appreciate that because we're closer than in age than if I would have waited till I was 30,
And to be frank, how old were you when you had me?
21.
21. That's actually around when people usually say you should have a kid.
I don't know. I felt like I was too young. I just started school, like college, that kind of stuff, and
Oh yeah, it
and
was
that
not a good
changed.
time in life.
It was not good timing, but now I appreciate it for what it is. That I can, although I still feel so far apart from you in age when all this like computer stuff, and I have no idea what you're talking
No,
about.
that's fair, but like I was right on the cusp of when that changed. 'Cause I still remember floppy disks.
Not fair.
I was right on the edge of floppy disks. Flip phones were big.
Do you
right?
remember asking me what you did before cell phones?
No, but I'm not surprised I said this. My parents had me in their 30s. I'm definitely waiting at least that long. It's one nice thing about being queer. I'm much more likely to be able to do shit on purpose.
That's
not-
fair, because Hatter definitely wasn't on purpose.
In fact, I was a miracle child.
Yes. Long story short, they told me when I was 16 I probably couldn't have kids. And so, even that being said, I was still on birth control with his father, like the lowest dose out there to regulate everything. And when I went in to get my next set of pills, they always do a pregnancy test, and they came to me and said I was pregnant. I'm like, no, I'm not.
I can't be.
Like, I can't be. They told me I can't have kids, and my cycles are regular anyway, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, you're pregnant. And I was like, no, I'm not. And they're like, do we need to call somebody? Because I just couldn't fathom it. Like, I couldn't, like, I had already had it in my head I wasn't going to have kids. And so I was
And
totally
then not
like,
only did you have a kid, you had a kid with blue eyes and red hair,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is
fair.
like, you know, the right. So, like, I really am, like, statistically, I shouldn't be here.
so,
I have no idea how this happened.
yeah, it was a little bit like that. Like, what? I don't know. So, yeah, it definitely was not what I was expecting. So, and then we did try to have another one a couple years later, which, you know, we got divorced, so probably was a good thing, but it wasn't happening. So.
Yeah.
So definitely maybe a miracle child for me. For me, anyway.
And then I was born in the middle of a snowstorm?
Yes. February, middle of a snowstorm, like, yeah.
What?
Yeah. But he definitely, like, I was told I wasn't part of my dad's family because I'd never been arrested or...
Grand entrance.
Right, grand entrance for sure. I'd never been arrested or spent the night in jail. You little bastard. Oh, I love you, Eli. Because, like, in my dad's family, they went to visit... There's 4 brothers. My dad is the oldest. And when...
And I would like to say these 4 brothers living in a 4-room cabin. 4
Yeah.
rooms, not 4 bedrooms, 4 rooms.
Yes, my grandmother lived in...
Which includes the bathroom.
about an hour south of Canada. Let's tell you that's how far north she lives.
A mile from the nearest paved
A mile
road.
from the nearest paved road. In a 4-room cabin, not bedroom, but 4-room.
Yeah, so...
With no running water and no electricity.
Yeah, 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a living room slash kitchen
area.
Yeah,
Very, very
5
tiny.
people living in that house.
But my grandmother at 411 was definitely the boss.
Great Grandma Flo.
Yep. Yes, this is the grandma with the
shotgun.
shotgun.
Oh, yeah.
They had a gun next to every window and door of the house, always loaded, which Hunter fired one as a child and scared the shit out of me.
Blew a hole in the ceiling.
He did blow a hole in the ceiling.
Was it a shotgun or was it a rifle?
It was a rifle, not a shotgun.
Okay, it was a rifle? Alright. I always thought it was a shotgun, but...
It was a rifle.
Yeah, because they tried clearing it out to make way for the child,
Yes.
the baby that was going to be there, the infant.
But they missed the one that was behind the door, which of course every child finds everything that somebody misses.
Oh, what's this thing? Bang!
Yeah, and of course pulled the trigger. Like
Yeah, of course.
how would you know to do that anyway? So yeah, they're wild.
Makes sense if it was a shotgun, there'd be a lot more than just one hole.
Yeah.
Honestly, with that cabin, there would be one hole. It'd just be a really big one.
Probably. And it was supposed to be a hunting shack,
Yeah.
but My grandfather had a heart attack. They lived in the city. My grandmother woke up with a burglar in her house after my grandfather had the heart attack, and she said, fuck this, I don't want to live in the city anymore. So they moved to their hunting shack out in the middle of nowhere. No running water, no electricity, and lived there. So I asked her one day, I said, why do you want to live like that? And she said, because if I want to walk naked down my street, I don't want anybody to say nothing to me about it. And I was like, go, Grandma.
You all do whatever you want out there.
Yeah. Which they did. They do.
which is like one of the reasons, because thanks to them, I grew up around. I not grew up, but I was introduced to guns, and I do see guns as a tool, because out there really is just wilderness. Yes. Like, deer and bear both walk into the front yard, and you need a way to defend yourself. Goddamn, I can't imagine living like that. That's very impressive.
Honestly, I'd love to go visit. It's the most serene.
It's very pretty.
It's very peaceful. Like,
very quiet.
It's almost like when you go out there, you feel like you've come home. But it's crazy to walk outside at night and when there's no moon or when the stars are out, they're the brightest stars you've ever seen, because there's no light pollution. Yeah. It's awe-inspiring. But when there's no moon or stars, it's pitch black.
There's nothing. Yeah.
There's nothing.
Humans are not designed to be able to see in the dark.
It's crazy. It's intense either way, whether it's black or the light or the stars.
It's equally beautiful as it is terrifying.
Yes, it's very intense. Because you could just, my stepmother was actually sitting on the porch drinking a cup of coffee. Here come two bears lumbering down the road, the round circle driveway they had. She just backed up into the cabin, and they tried to be really quiet because the cabin is not like brick or anything wood. Sturdy. You know,
those bears wanted in; they were getting in.
Yes, and so,
but most of the time, bears don't they're not hyper aggressive.
No, but there's so much wildlife. That's how they lived through the winters. They would, anybody who hunts, there's a hunting season, and of course they hunted out of season. Whenever they could kill a deer, they did it for the meat. It wasn't sport.
Which is they practiced fillet and release.
Yes, fillet and release is what my uncle called it, because you couldn't bring the carcass back, because if you did, you'd get in trouble with the DNR for shooting or hunting out of season.
Now you could shoot it on your property as long as it was on your property already.
I don't know about that, to be honest.
Because I thought that was a thing, because they would if it was really close and they could get away with it, they would drag it into the yard and say it was there, as long as it didn't leave a trail, which was very rare. Obviously, there would usually be a big trail, but that was a reason why, if it was in the yard, they didn't go hunting; it came to them.
Honestly, I don't know the law or the rules. But
I thought I remember that from somewhere.
I just know he called it fillet and release. I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, fillet all the meat you can't offer, and then leave it in nature.
But they're definitely interesting folks. My grandmother had her arm medicine that when I came in from outside, when I was first meeting them, of course, hearing all this stuff, I think they're full of shit, right? Like, all this crap can't be real. But the more I spent time with them and the more I got to know them, I realized, it's all real. They're not crazy. A lot of shit happens to them by their own hand most of the time. But, my youngest uncle got arrested with his best friend at a Little Caesars in the closest town, which was like 45 minutes.
I always think it's him and Ben that got arrested.
It was him and Neil.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, they were in a Little Caesars, and I can't remember which instance happened first.
I always remembered as the bank first, and then the other one.
So they're driving it. If anybody lives up north, they know that most cars, especially older cars, have a lot of rust because of salt on the roads during the winter. So they had a car that had multiple color, like fenders, hood, that kind of stuff. They were at Little Caesars getting food. They get surrounded by SWAT team, right?
Yeah, the guy behind the counter puts his hands up and dives behind the counter.
He puts his hands up and kind of goes behind the counter, and they turn around, and all these guns are trained on them. And it turns out that somebody driving a multicolored car had robbed a bank not that far away, and because they had this multicolored car, they thought it was them and hauled them into the police station.
And to be fair, the local police were like, if something went wrong, you go to these boys because they probably were involved.
Well, but this was at Little Caesars, not the house. They know the house for sure because that's where the boys.
I know that there's places where hunting laws change between 2 states, so asshole hunters, one who hunt shit you shouldn't be hunting like wolves, just perch up in the state line and wait for the second they walk into the wrong state. Oof.
So they didn't even get their pizza that they had paid for, by the way. The next time, I don't know, maybe it was the next time, but another time, same Little Caesars.
Same people, too.
SWAT team. It might have been. This is the Great North Woods, so I'm, not to put down any police officers, but.
Well, to be frank, our family definitely wasn't on a mission from God.
Yeah, no. Anyway, somebody had tied a young gentleman to a flagpole in the middle of town and stripped him of his clothing.
Yeah.
And the description was of the 2 guys: long beards, baseball caps, and flannel shirts.
That's 90% of the male populace.
Yeah, I was going to try to give you a percentage, but that's probably in the Great North Woods. Long beards, baseball hats, and flannel shirts is probably
everyone looks like most men look like lumberjacks.
Most of the men look like that. But these 2 guys were together somewhere in the vicinity, so same Little Caesars. So basically, they get surrounded one more time, and
this time they ordered the pizza.
My uncle said, "I'm gonna go with you, but I'm eating my pizza first.
Yeah,
so I'm taking my pizza with me
because
he did not get it. He did not get his pizza the last time."
Yeah, and so that's the running joke, is that part of the curse, the family curse, is that we can't eat at Little Caesars.
Yeah.
We can order from Little Caesars, but we just can't eat there.
Well, and they did things like you can't go visit your brother in jail because they arrest you for a different warrant in a different county and take you away.
Long beards, flannel shirts, baseball cup. Gee, thanks. Did they have faces too? Features like mouths and noses.
Right, very. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that is a very large portion of the male population up there, so I'm not sure how they synchronize these 2 with that, but so my younger uncle, same one who got arrested at Little Caesars, went to visit his brother who had shot and killed 2 guys in jail. Got arrested because when you sign in, they run your name. Ran his name, and he had a warrant in a different county that they took him away for. So the running joke is as well: don't
visit family.
You can't visit family in jail. I'll come pick you up, but I can't visit you. So.
And then the first bit of the curse that I know is that because I didn't know about that part, is that if there's paperwork, it will go wrong.
Yes.
And then there's one instance that we know of that it went wrong in a way that helped.
Usually it's to the detriment. Like somebody lost my paycheck one time at a facility I was working at. Paperwork gets lost or doesn't get filled out correctly, but my father was supposed to go to jail. They actually, any reason to have a party, it's Tuesday, let's have a party. They had a party in Bim's going to jail party, and he was supposed to be in jail, and just because it was Bim to go to jail didn't mean Bim had to be there. It just was while he was in jail.
The family had any reason for it.
Yeah, it's Tuesday. Let's have a party.
Someone sneezed. Bless you. Let's have a party.
Anyway, he showed up to his own party. They're like, "You can't be here." They lost his paperwork, and no paperwork means no jail.
Yeah, we know that you're supposed to be in jail, and we even know what for, but we don't have the paperwork to send you, so we gotta let you go.
Yeah.
Now, you stated something that if I know correctly, the reason their sibling was in jail for those 2 people, is that the story that I'm thinking about?
Yes.
Vermilion says, "Oh, wait, no, come on. I think I can't do that." Okay, basically Vermilion's wants to continue watching, but isn't going to be around. So,
okay.
That's what they mean by luck. It's a thing. So should we tell that story?
We can.
I just have this Joe's Colin quote in my bed. How about NIMBY should love living near prison? I don't know what NIMBYs are.
I don't know. So which I found out the real story this last time when we went up for your Uncle Tio's. The third child, the third brother, he and his girlfriend went to do their laundry, and of course up there,
oh, not my backyard. Okay.
you get, you put your laundry in, you go to the bar next door and you have a drink. Well, the bartender there happened to be the girlfriend of a drug runner in Minnesota, which is the state over. So, they had their drinks, they left, went to get their laundry, went home. Like a week later, 3 guys show up at now they live in a trailer in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
They do have running water and electricity, however, it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
3 guys bust up in their house, and just so happens there was a bear that had mauled their dog in the backyard like a couple weeks before or a week before, so he had a 30-06 leaning against the window in case the bear had come back.
30-06 shotgun?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a shotgun or a rifle. I'm not sure. And so when these guys busted in, he sent his girlfriend out into the woods.
Yeah, in the middle of winter.
Yeah, it was pretty ugly, it sounds like. But, that's what you get when you live in the Great North Woods.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Like
wilderness.
I said, it's beautiful and terrifying.
Yeah. Anyway, and of course it's storming this night, right? So
In the middle of winter.
my aunt-to-be runs out of the back of the trailer into the woods with a bear, by the way, because there was a bear that mauled their dog,
Wearing nothing but a t-shirt.
wearing nothing but a nightshirt, no shoes. Later on, she described it to me as, especially as women, when we watch the horror movie and the girl's running and she's screaming and falling, and you're like, get her together, where you think that you're going to be calm and collected. She's like, no, I was that girl. I was tripping and sobbing and falling. And
because in the movies, you never see how actually dark it is. But it's pitch black.
Well, and it's raining,
Yeah.
so it's lightning, and then she knows there's a bear out there, which she said she finally kind of, tucked herself under, a fallen log, because she assumes these guys are after her,
Yeah.
because she only heard 1 gunshot. So she assumed they killed him. And, so she kind of tried to tuck herself up underneath that, because she thought she heard them in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Tucked herself up underneath this tree that had fallen, and it turned out it was the bear. It had jumped over the tree and kept running.
It's
So
chasing her.
it was chasing her.
Yeah.
And so she thought it was the people chasing her.
Yeah.
So now she wouldn't come out when my family started, because needless to say, my uncle, they tried to throw him through the window. And
The front bay window that looked out over
that
the front
looked
of the house.
out, right? So when he didn't go through the window, but he fell down on the gun, and so he came up shooting, but he really couldn't see.
Yeah, he's beaten so badly, his eyes are swollen.
He
shut.
almost lost one of his eyes. His eyes were swollen. They beat him with a pipe and a bat. It was pretty drastic. So when he came up, he just started shooting.
Yeah.
But he'd been around guns all his life. It's a
Right.
very small trailer, so we could hear them. So of the 3, he shot and killed 2 of them.
From what I heard, one immediately, and then he
Yes.
hit the other one, but he didn't die. He let out in the
Yeah,
car.
they both. The one died immediately. The other 2 got in the car and left, and one of those died in the car down the road. But of course, my uncle calls my grandmother, not the police.
Well, because also, as a reminder, he's on,
He is a convicted felon.
but he was on something that he couldn't have guns. Was that the convicted fellow?
Yeah, because he
Okay.
was a convicted felon, he couldn't have a gun. And so he calls my grandmother. They rally the troops. Just so happens my brother is there, who is in a wheelchair. He's had a car accident and had paralysis. So he has this huge white van, right? So then they eventually call the police, who come, and he says, fine, you can take me to jail, but not till we find my girlfriend.
Yeah.
She's in the woods somewhere by herself. There's a bear out there. It's dark. It's raining. So, I do agree. Calling grandma was probably the better move. But so basically, everybody was running around calling her, but she wouldn't come out because she thought it was the guys that shot. Because she only ever heard 1 gunshot. She thought
And
it was them
in the middle of
trying
the
to
woods,
find
it's
her.
raining. It's hard to determine who's calling what. Yeah.
Yeah, but she finally saw Eric's van, my brother's van, big white thing,
Yeah,
and so
it's
she
very noticeable.
Yeah, very noticeable. So she finally came out, and then of course he went to jail. He spent I think 9 months in jail while they did a trial. All of that. It turns out he got justifiable homicide and time served because he was a convicted felon and he did have a gun, so that 9 months was time served. But one of the guys that died was the son of a big drug runner.
Over Canada and Minnesota.
Yeah, so they were expecting some retaliation. So my grandmother walked around with a pistol on her hip like it was the Wild West. Because they were trying to get her to move, and she's like, "This is my place. Let him come."
And this was a time when Bim had his girlfriend, Barbara. She was there, and she worked at the bar, and she carried a gun too on her just in case someone walked in the bar and tried some shit.
Yeah, so just in case, because they didn't know. Now, they never did have retaliation at their place.
And they were honestly worried, because I remember we had to drive up and call out who we were, because out in the middle of that, there's no noise. Especially people, like, even in the middle of the suburbs, there's always noise. You just don't notice it anymore. But when you're out there, there's nothing. Nothing but nature. So when you hear an engine, you can hear it from miles off. So they know you're coming.
And you would be met with a gun if you didn't announce yourself.
Yeah.
So
that was serious work.
So my grandmother ends up meeting up with the head of the family. So after the trial, and the only reason why it went well is the third guy told the truth.
Yeah.
He got on the stand and said we went there to kill him because the girlfriend at the bar that they went to used them as a scapegoat and said that they had stole money and drugs from the son, her boyfriend.
Yeah. Was she stealing? She was the one stealing?
She had stole it and hid it in her son's locker at his high school.
What the fuck? This is part of the story I did not know about.
Well, this last time I went up there, he told me that this came out afterwards.
Oh my goodness.
So, but she told the boyfriend that he had done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, for real.
If that guy would not have told the truth, I think it would have really.
Yeah, not only in court, but then the.
But obviously, they took pictures of him. He was beat pretty severely.
Yeah.
Like you could tell it wasn't just, "Hey, I'm gonna punch you and it's over," you know.
Yeah.
So, so later on, they found the drugs in her son's locker at his high school, and the money. There was drugs and money. But my grandmother, like, even after the trial, was still worried about repercussions because her son had killed his son. Like, you know, the guy obviously doesn't have a lot of morals. He's a drug runner, you know. So, anyway, they met for coffee, like the head of the families, I guess, and talked about it. And he was like, he's stupid.
He went to go kill your son. It was retaliation.
Yeah, he got what he got. You know, he went there to kill him, and he got what he went there to get.
Yep.
So, you know, but if I wouldn't have lived that with them, you would think that's
total. It sounds like total bullshit because it's honestly it sounds like a television show.
Right.
Like you could easily stretch it out and make it 4 to 8 episodes, 100%. And yeah, no, goddamn, right? Yeah. And I was telling another friend, MD, and MD was like, I thought about writing this down and selling it. Because like, it's one hell of a story.
Well, and to be honest, they're all rough cut people. But my uncle, the one that shot and killed those guys, which I feel is justified.
Yeah.
Even the court said justifiable homicide. I asked him about that. I was like, I know that you guys are rough folks, but you took somebody's life, and I don't know how that feels. And he said it's horrible. Even though these people were there to kill me, even though they probably would have if I went and shot them, I think about them a lot. And their families, because even though they may have deserved a little bit of what they got, nobody deserves to die. And so he said it was either him or them.
Yeah.
But it still is weighs heavy on his mind. So, and I wasn't expecting that from him because, like I said, they're kind of rough cut people, and they're, you know. But the only thing I can say is, I know they're strong family ties.
When you're talking about cops to shut the fuck up Friday, it's why'd you stop me? Am I free to go? I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment rights. I'm invoking my right to an eternity. Eternity, not eternity.
So that they're a rough.
Which is funny because there was a running joke of they couldn't sell the property.
Oh yeah, well I was messing around with my grandmother because they don't have they didn't have a septic tank. They had an outhouse. When I first got there, you had to go outside. Then they built a little makeshift bathroom.
Yeah.
That had just a pit out back where you had to fill the toilet with water. It's kind of like a thing, and I was like, well, why don't you just get a backhoe and like dig and I was like, are you scared they're gonna find the bodies? And my grandmother just looked at me and went blink blink, and I was like, okay, just kidding. Moving along.
Because you know that they would bury old conquered cars out there too.
They buried everything instead
everything.
of taking it to the dump, so there's no telling what's on that property. But when I said something about the bodies, nobody disagreed.
Yeah.
with me.
Everyone just looked at you.
Yeah, a couple of blinks, and I'm like, okay.
Which brings in question, who owns that property now? Because that's in the family still.
Yeah, it's the one who shot, the only one left.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it stays in, so his son will get it. They want to hand it down the line.
Yeah, I want to. Because it's become the cabin's fallen apart. No one lives there anymore.
Well, the plan is to redo it, right?
But I know it's become
my father died, and he was up there. My grandmother passed not too long after that. Then my youngest uncle passed not too long after that. So the only uncle left found it very difficult to go back to this cabin, which was everybody's safe haven. Like, even when boys were being stupid and young, they went to live before my grandmother went to live there. They went up to the hunting cabin, decided they were going to live there year round, and used to ride a bicycle to get to the little local bar / 2-aisle grocery store.
Yeah, and they got potatoes and flour and made potato cakes.
Yes, and flapjacks.
And flapjack, yeah, and ketchup.
And eggs.
And eggs, yeah. Enough ketchup on eggs and flapjacks, and you can pretend it's anything. That'd be hard to go back. Yeah. You scared they'll find the bodies?
Yeah,
No,
I'm a little
never mind.
bit. They are gonna scare them. I'm a little bit scared.
So because it is dilapidated a little bit, but it's become it's become a memorial to the family really, because all the ashes are there.
Yes.
In
Which
fact,
I want at least some of my ashes to be
isn't
there.
there a bench there too, specifically where they?
No, but I want to.
Okay.
I want to do a stone bench, otherwise it won't last the winters. So the remaining uncle who owns the property, it was very difficult for him to go back because 3 of his close family members passed within a year, and so it was difficult for him. So I think he kind of just ignored it. Ignored it and didn't want to go back. So.
Speaking of the family and the rough and tumble of folks, they lived out in the middle of the woods. They kind of had to be. And which is funny because all but one of them were really big dudes. I completely understand why the ashes there, at least in part. It sounds like a really important family place. It is. It very much is. And the family is very much very open and accepting of people. I remember when you divorced Dad, they asked, "Did he ever hit you?" The answer was no. They said, "Okay, cool. He's welcome here."
Yeah. Yeah, but I feel like if the answer was yes, there might have been another body buried on the property.
Probably.
But the answer was not yes.
The answer was
I didn't
nice.
lie. I'm not a big liar. It's hard for me. I don't lie well. Yeah, they were as long as
he didn't lay hands on you.
He didn't lay hands on me, then he was
which is
welcome to come back.
The rough and tumble where they have you don't hit women, which is a big deal.
So.
But yeah, all but one of the uncles my great uncles was big dudes.
Yeah.
They were 200 plus pounds, 6 foot tall, big dudes. Except one of them, he was really skinny.
Yep.
And the family is known for weird medical histories.
True.
Would you like to describe some of them?
Well, me personally, had my tonsils out and they grew back.
Yep.
Had my toenail removed and it grew back.
Mm-hmm.
My father.
Bim.
Well, my brother.
Big, large, huge. They were a big family. Because Bim was 6 foot, but he wasn't the tallest.
No, he was.
Oh, he was the tallest?
Yeah.
Because I could have sworn there was someone that's taller than me.
Ricky might be.
I think Ricky is a little bit taller.
Maybe a little bit taller, but they're all big guys, except for Randy, who was a little bit skinnier. So my brother had something about, so in his paralysis, they did some experimental, it was something he wasn't getting back. And so he was willing to do like experimental stuff because there's nothing you could do for it. He had a severed spinal cord in a motor vehicle accident. And so he did some experimental procedures to see if maybe they would work, because he's like, it's fucked up anyway, what the hell, like do whatever. So he had some weird stuff resulting from, they think that, like sensation when he shouldn't have, still paralysis, but like he could feel things he shouldn't have been able to. There was also something else about him I can't remember that they actually sent off to be studied.
Now I remember Bim had one.
Yes, my dad had non-Hodgkin's.
I spoke anyway. Go ahead. Yeah. Now, like before we go on to Bim, your brother, he had like I remember we went to visit and there was a lot of discussion about things that he had been going through. Like his blood actually became toxic at one point, didn't it?
Yes, but that had to do with his kidneys shutting down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But like his blood became toxic. He walked like they brought him in. He was coherent, even though he doesn't remember anything that was going on. And the doctor was like, I don't understand how you're conscious right now. Let alone coherent.
Because his blood was so low that he was pale gray. Like, they couldn't get a line on him because he didn't.
Pale gray?
Yes. Like, the doctor told me he was the color of the wall, and the wall was a pale gray. He said we couldn't get a line. They had to take him to do a central line because they couldn't.
He was so dehydrated?
He was so, with no blood.
Yeah.
So, and the doctor couldn't understand how he was still conscious. Now he doesn't remember any of that, and he wasn't making sense, but he was awake.
But he was talking to people, and he doesn't. There was a whole 8 months that he doesn't remember.
It's like it started in October, and he finally starts remembering stuff in January. So it's several months.
Yeah, several months.
Doesn't remember Thanksgiving or Christmas.
And he always ate. Wasn't it? He always wanted hot dogs and something else.
I don't remember. But he did act like a child. Like he was supposed to have a CT scan, and he's like, I'm not drinking that. And I was like, yes, you are. Drink it. So I had to
So you are, medically speaking, a zombie.
Well, my father had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Which is a cancer.
And it started out as a sore on his side, like a lump that looked bruised, almost like a sore, and it was painful. But my father seemed to think he had a medical degree, which he did not.
Doctors don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, doctors don't know what they're doing. They just want money from you. And I'm like, you obviously have something wrong.
Yeah, and obviously that's not how that works.
So, of course, I work in imaging. So my friend had me come in on a Saturday to do an ultrasound of it. And she was like, let me let you talk to the doctor. So the radiologist came in. The radiologist said, sir, you need a CT. And then when we left, he said, she just wants money. I said, you do realize the scan you just had was free, right?
It's free.
She's not, it doesn't matter if you do it here or not, you need a CT. No, I don't need that.
It is an interesting thing of being able to work in the medical field, and that thing of you're able to get those scans and whatnot for free.
Yeah, CT I can't because it's contrast. You have to do all that.
Yeah.
But ultrasound, you just put the probe down and look kind of thing.
Yeah, you're not using any resources.
Right. So, except the person scanning, and she offered it in the first place.
Being in America, that's a bad perspective that I can understand having.
Well, so when he decided to go back up north, it started hurting again, and he went in, and they said they cut it out. It was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. However, it had encapsulated itself.
Which is, all the cells on the outside had died and made a hard shell while everything inside was living.
Yeah, and they couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
So they asked him if they could send it off to be studied, and he's like, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. It's out of me.
It's out of me. That's all I know. So this man could have, who had it for years, you have to understand, it could have been ravaged his whole body.
He just didn't.
But his body fixed himself.
Yeah.
You know?
There was a running joke that the cancer didn't. He was such an ornery old man that the cancer didn't want to. It's just.
I can see that.
But your brother, due to all the things that he went through, and Bim are both in medical textbooks. Maybe not by name, but definitely.
For research.
For research in medical textbooks. The family, you said yourself, you grew tonsils. So you have seen to cut your cancer in a Pokeball. Yes.
I never thought of it like that.
Hodgkin's lymphoma. I choose you.
Wow. Yeah, I never thought about it like that. That's kind of funny.
But yeah, I've had parts of my toenails removed and they've gone back.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of any other like weird medical stuff I've ever had.
Well, but you haven't had a lot of medical issues.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I'm surprisingly sturdy. But like, Bim was too ornery to die, to be frank. He had, like, eventually it was a heart attack, right?
Well, it started with he had a really bad wreck, which punctured his lung. He actually, it was in the winter, and I assumed he'd been drinking because, again, any reason to have a party, but they told me no, he was actually sober. I was really, maybe that's why he got in the wreck. I don't know.
He drinks better when you're drunk.
Because it's how he's used to,
Yeah.
But he ran his van into a tree.
Man, literally too angry to die. Yeah, close to it.
And I actually sat in the van after the fact and looked down, and if it would have been 6 inches over, he would not have made it. Like, I could look down sitting in the driver's seat and see the ground. Like, that's how far the tree had pushed into the van.
Nice.
Of course, it was nighttime. He blacked out because he had hit his chest, his head. Gets out of the van, but he has a shattered pelvis, multiple broken ribs. Ends up passing out. This is winter in the Great North Woods, so by the time he wakes up and crawls to Grandma's cabin, he had frostbite, so they had to cut off portions of his toes. Anyway, they got him in. He did have a deflated lung. They put him in ICU. So he had always had a little bit of breathing issues because he smoked like a freight train, and no, this wasn't. He just didn't like to wear his seatbelt. But it wasn't before safety issues. He just didn't follow any safety issues. Although the van was really old, and so so he had breathing issues prior to that just because he smoked a lot. But this made it even worse. Like, he had to have oxygen. Sometimes he would do like Primatene Mist, which is the over-the-counter inhaler. I don't know if it's still around these days. So he did have a couple heart attacks prior to that. So they don't.
Of which he survived. I remember I was in the room when one of them happened, like in the hospital.
Yeah, so he survived all of those. But they're not 100% sure if he had a heart attack. They think he may have like OD'd on his breathing stuff, like, because you can take pills, you can take the inhalers, you can take all these. And they found him next to the chair he slept in because he didn't breathe while laying down, so he slept in a chair. So they don't really truly, and ultimately it doesn't matter just because they don't come back. There's no, even if I knew truly what happened, it wouldn't change the end result. But so obviously he's not too ornery to die, but
so there's a video game with a very old ornery man that is
but it's usually the ornery ones that survive.
Yeah, it's the old ornery man that is the main character. But he's an old warrior. Like, he's literally a fighter. And someone's like, "You ever wonder when death's gonna take you?" And his response is, "Death can have me when it has earned me." It's very
fair.
That's very Bim energy.
I kind of like it, actually.
It's very, very Bim energy, though. It's very much like, yeah, I'll die when I say so.
When I'm ready.
It's real medicine is going to do something to you if you take too much.
Yeah,
yes.
And that's what they're saying is because he took pills, he also took an inhaler, and I know he was taking oxygen, like an oxygen tank.
Yeah, and Grandma Flo was always on oxygen, too.
Yeah, so.
Which reminds me of the quote about Teddy Roosevelt.
What's the quote?
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt said a lot of things. Death had to take him sleeping. If he'd been awake, there would have been a fight.
I do like that. I had not heard that before. So.
Death had to take your side of the family one by one, because if you had to take more than one at a time, it wouldn't.
Yeah, it probably would not have worked.
It wouldn't have made it.
I'm telling you. I even asked my uncle this last time I saw him. I was like, I think literally even Barbara spends the night in jail.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, literally every member of the family except Grandma. And I said, how did that happen? Because I know she's wilder than y'all. And
She just not got caught.
No. Ricky took the rack for her twice. Corey took it for her once.
She really was the head of the family. Like, literally a mob boss.
He said, yeah, I did 2 short stints in jail for her, and Corey just got some kind of warrant.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, her and Uncle Betty tried to throw that guy through a cigarette machine in a bar, which is something that's probably not around anymore.
Which, she's 4'11".
Yep.
Right?
4'11".
4'11".
And scares the shit out of me.
100 pounds soaking wet. Throws a man through a cigarette machine.
Her and Uncle Betty.
Oh my goodness. There was...
And and that's not the only side. Like my mom's side.
Yeah, this was all your dad's
Yeah,
side.
all of that is my dad's side. But my mom's side...
This has nothing to do with my dad's side of the family either.
No.
She sounds terrifying, yeah.
Yeah, but I loved her to death. Like, I knew that if I had a problem and I called her, she was going to help me fix it.
One way or another.
And my dad, too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. They weren't terrifying to me, but everybody else was terrified of them.
Well, but here's also So, multiple times you've been told in your life that you were scary.
Yes. Which I never understood that till as I got a little older. Not scary, but intimidating. And I didn't see that. Like, the first time someone told me, I'm like, no, I'm not. And then probably a couple months later, somebody else told me the same thing. And then I was like, maybe I have to rethink this. Because that's multiple.
Once it's just someone saying it. Twice is, like, all right, maybe there's a pattern here.
But I know I have a strong personality. And I know that, and bless my mama, I don't know how she did it. Or if it's just, my mama is a weak person. And I think there are 4 of us kids, and all of us have very strong personalities. So I don't know if we saw my mom and decided we did not want to be that way or what, but I literally probably in middle school decided I don't give a fuck what people think about me. I don't. And I think that's when my strong personality really more emerged. And a little bit more... After I graduated high school, there was a family situation that I ended up becoming the mother over for my younger sister to try to take care of her. And then that made me decide, you know what? I'm not taking shit anymore. And so I feel like that's where I'm intimidating because, like, reassessing after people were saying that is, I'm gonna call bullshit when it's bullshit. I'm gonna be like, well, hold up now. Like, really? But I'm also going to... I like to see both sides of things, or I try to, and I think you're a lot the same. And maybe that's from me.
Being able to be that forceful and self-assured is really impressive. I definitely had more energy like that when I was young and pissed, so maintaining it is powerful.
Yeah, well, and I really think that's when the conversion kind of started happening, which is unusual because in middle school most people are going the other way. They're going more insecure than secure. And I also moved like my junior year in high school from a bigger town to a very small town, so there was a lot of like, oh my god, I'm gonna die here, like, but by then I just didn't have tolerance for a lot of crap. Like, I was literally not a new person since first grade, and these are juniors in high school. That's how small this town is. So myself and my brother became like the
new hot biz.
The new hot business, and so the cheerleaders, the one who introduced me around school, they told me to stay away from a couple people. Now, literally graduating class of 40 people, okay. These guys known each other their whole lives. The newest person came in the first grade, so they've known each other their whole lives. And I'm the new person, and they're telling me to stay away from that one because she's weird. I'm like, then she's the one I want to know.
She's the one I want to talk to,
because she's probably the coolest person in here. Because the rest of you are making me want to vomit. I can't. So when I chose to eat lunch with her instead of the cheerleader, she outright told me, if you do that, you're choosing suicide. Like,
social suicide.
Social suicide. And I was like, done. Because honestly, if those people were like that, I didn't want to be with them anymore.
No,
Now, granted, it didn't 100% stay that way because I was still the new person. Plus, they all thought my brother was hot, so they wanted to talk to me about it. But
and your brother was very smart as well.
Yeah, he's too smart for his own.
Frustratingly smart, as you would say.
Yes.
He you would, what was it? You would study to get a B, and he would do nothing and get 100.
I would get so pissed off. Like, I would study to get B's, and he would not go to school and get A's. I'm like, I just want to punch you in the face.
You'd think people doing the most dangerous sport in high school would make people less likely to play stupid games.
You would think.
You would think.
Maybe they hit their head too much. That's why they're stupid. So, yeah. So it still was. But I don't know how. For children of somebody who's very not a strong person turned out that way. And again, I don't know if it's we saw my mom and was like, no, don't want to do that. But of course, for those of you who are young, as you get older, a lot of times you hit a point in your life where you're like, I'm fucking 30 years old. I don't need to take this shit. You know, you get to a point where you're like, I don't have patience for that or the time.
Yeah, so I recently heard someone talk about that, how like old people always seem like they don't. Oh, hold on. Cheerleading is a sport most likely to severely mess you up, even more so than football. Although football does break your brain with 1,000 cuts, even if you don't concuss yourself explicitly.
To be honest, I work in imaging, and we do see a lot of cheerleaders coming in for bone issues.
Because they have no protection whatsoever. Yeah. And you know, being thrown up and catching is both dangerous because that's 100+ pounds coming down on top of you, and if you're not careful, you know. But I recently saw a TikTok about someone talking about how like old people always seem to just not give a shit.
It's because they don't.
Because they don't, right? It's they have reached a point where they realize that they are too old to care what other people think anymore. Yeah. And some people just figure that out much younger. And they're talking about how like because by the time you're an old person, there's no one left to tell you how to live.
Sure.
Like when you're 30, everyone older than you.
Yep.
Can talk to you and you can like look to them and they'll tell you, but by the time you're 80, there's no one left. Like there's no one older than you.
Right. That makes sense. But you know, when you figure it out when you're younger, to be honest, when I was at work, fairly new in my job, they're having trouble hearing me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
To be honest, when I started my job, my coworker said, I think the people in X-ray are talking about you, because I was there as an X-ray student as well. And I said, I don't care. And she said, how can you not care? And I said, because their opinion doesn't matter to me.
Oh, no, they don't give a that. Fair
and
enough.
She was like, I don't understand that. And I said, they're not important to me. I make it sound like nobody's opinion matters, but it does. My friends, my true friends.
The opinions of the people that you care about.
And my family, yes, it matters to me. However, ultimately, I'm still going to do what I want to do, even if I seek advice or you tell me the advice unsought. But ultimately, it is a decision I'm going to make for myself. So yeah, it does matter to certain people, but not, in my mind, it matters some people. So.
I just like tripping musical so long. Goodness, we've. Oh, I have no idea how I treated myself as hard as I did when I was young. I've been pretty self-conscious and sensitive, but I never tried to change.
Yeah, and you know what? Knowing a little bit about your story, I was pretty impressed that you were able to do that. Because that is being a teenager is hard to navigate anyway, but having all that additional crap is very impressive that you're able to do that.
I'm trying to think of like there's one other story that I know of, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else to discuss. How are you feeling, by the way?
Like I need a nap.
Oh. But yeah, like I said before, you're a very strong-willed woman, and oh, right. One thing I wanted, because like when we moved to the South, it's definitely a different culture.
Yes.
And at least when we moved down here, I don't know about now, but it was unusual to see a woman by herself eating at a restaurant, right? In a way, without letting I was trans and queer, I don't know what the foundation's looking the way beneath. Okay. But you don't care. You don't give a shit. If you're gonna go out to eat, you're gonna go out to eat. You're gonna enjoy yourself.
Yes.
And which is,
which a lot of people don't understand, and I was like, I am okay with myself, which a lot of people are not. And that makes a big difference, is that you need to, and honestly, you should be okay with yourself before you get in a relationship with somebody else, because you risk losing yourself in that other person's personality.
Yeah.
Like,
and if something goes wrong, you can't see yourself leaving.
Right. So it's one of those things that you just have to be okay with who you are before you're with somebody else, so that you can be your own person in a relationship. And so, which, you know, I'm divorced and not married to the current guy I'm living with, so, like, I don't know, maybe I'm not the best person to give advice, but...
But no, I agree with you, because, like, there's so many people that are, like, the moment they leave a relationship, they have to be in another one.
Yeah,
Because they
totally
don't
not.
know what else to do, because they don't know who they are without the other person.
Right.
And it's not easy to do, and for me at least, it's definitely been a lifelong thing so far. It can be a lifelong thing, but, like, just, you have to be comfortable with who you are. You have to be comfortable being alone before you're with someone, so that that's always an option.
And to be honest, it's nicer to have somebody with you to enjoy dinner or to go to a movie.
Definitely helps me make sure I maintain a central self. I don't need to mold myself to a single person.
And that's a good point. I honestly sometimes have a hard time wrapping my head around the polyamorous, which Hunter's explained to me. And ideally, it sounds ideal, actually. But I don't know, probably because I'm old and I have a different mindset about things. But to have that huge layer of trust that you have to be polyamorous is probably the most satisfying thing in a relationship, is trust.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that polyamory is built on trust, but all relationships should always be built on trust.
Correct.
I know it's not for everyone, but for me, it's just what's right and feels nice.
Right. And I'm not saying it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to fathom it, except when you explained it, it felt comfortable.
Yeah.
It felt, again, that
It felt like the ideal situation.
Yes, it felt like an ideal situation, but
and it doesn't always work out.
Well, fair, but neither do regular
and
relationships
like,
either.
like an ideal situation is ideal, and usually is the ideal situation because it doesn't always happen, right? Now I get it. I'm just saying, I understand when it's confusing to people. Yeah.
So, and just with the way you explained it, I was kind of like, oh, I would really like that. Just because.
There's far too many people that couldn't.
Well, and I'm a huge person about trust. And so, you know, it takes a lifetime to build trust, but seconds to shatter it.
Yeah,
and suspicion, not proof.
There's a quote by, not a Graham Poe. I have it written down somewhere, but it's a quote that says, a lifetime is trust destroyed in a minute of mistake.
Yeah. So, but again, it sounds ideal just because of how much trust you have in that kind of relationship, and that's the one thing that would attract me to something like that.
And there's way too many people that are like really into drama.
Yeah.
And starting arguments and having an argument. And like, I couldn't do that, right? Like, it's not like, I couldn't do that.
Well, our current family dynamic with my fiance, they have a lot of drama in their family, which I don't mind hearing, but I don't like being a part of.
Oh, yeah. I love hearing about drama. I don't want to spread it, but I want to hear
about
it.
And I don't want to be part of it.
And I don't want to be part of it, no.
So, so they come to me because I'm the level-headed one most of the time. But
Which is very funny. That side of the family is very much like, fucking hate you, next day we're fine. While you and us are like, no. If you've pissed me off, we hold grudges.
Oh, yeah.
We're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, I'm going to hold it against you for a long time. Like, it's hard for me to let it go. That forgive and forget thing is not really in my dictionary. Yeah, I don't.
And you know what? I'm willing to forgive. I'm not willing to forget.
Yeah.
Definitely hold grudges, yeah.
Yeah, I hold it.
Yeah, the funny thing is, in multiplayer video games, I'm very much like, I'm just gonna do my own thing, I'm gonna be over here and be fine. The moment someone targets me, I'm like, I don't care if I lose, you're burning with me. I scorch earth policy. I don't care if I lose, you are not winning. That's very, like, I hold grudges, I can't help it. But, like, I'm willing to forgive, but I will never forget the injustice you've committed upon me.
Yeah, I'm very much the same. That I'm going to hold it against you for a long time. And
I'm willing to give people second chances, and so are you.
Now, in the past I wasn't.
A bit of both. I have pretty intense mood swings, and when I feel down, this can change in a split second. But long-term grudges are for longer-term things. That's
sure.
Yeah. Because, like, you've given second chances. Sometimes you have to be talked into giving second or multiple
Yeah,
chances. But
because
you never forget.
usually you're dead to me.
Yeah, but you never forget what they did.
No, that is true.
Like,
that is true.
And
I'm willing to try to help you if you look like you're trying to help yourself.
Yeah.
If I feel like you're trying to do what you can do to make your life better and get out of whatever situation you were dealing with that caused the issue in the first place, like those kind of things, I feel like if you were trying to do it, I'm more willing to try to help you get through it.
Yeah. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah, you know what? That's what he said about me too. He said even if I held your head underwater, I couldn't make you drink.
Yeah. but like in the other way is also like right. Like even if you tried helping someone, if they don't want help, it's not going to help.
Yeah.
So you need to like, you in this scenario in the hypothetical, you got to notice that the horse wants to drink. Helping yourself is hard. It's a lot of the world saying that says no, not to, and a lot of bad advice.
But that's what drives me to want to help folks is when they're trying to help themselves, and I see that.
Yeah.
Because
They are receptive to being helped. So there's nothing more frustrating. Okay. Do you want to call it there or?
Yeah, we can do that.
Well, there's one more. Would you like to tell the story of the time I cooked dinner or made dinner?
Sure.
And we'll end on that one.
And then you're gonna make dinner tonight. Maybe. So I'll leave you on this story, and this is a little bit of clue for those of you who had mothers who had eyes in the back of their head.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to my dad and my stepmother's house with Hunter, and this is if you're old enough to know.
Nesquik.
No, not well too. Yeah, right. Audible silence. He never said yes, so just so you know that.
I was not intending to make dinner, and I have a thing at 6. I can't make dinner.
So there's VHS tapes. Some of you might remember those. But the big thing about those is you got to rewind them before you return them to the store. As well as even the ones you own, because in the next time, they're not rewound and they're not ready to watch. So we went to my dad and my stepmother's, and Hatter wanted to watch a movie, so that was great.
Do you remember what movie?
I
Probably
don't.
Aladdin.
I don't. Probably. You love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I went and played on the computer, like playing some stupid games, I guess, and I could hear Hunter in there singing along to the show, watching the show. Well, he was like, he didn't rewind them, but he was like, you were like 3.5 or 4. 4 maybe at that time.
But you instilled you have to rewind it.
Yes.
Rewind, be kind to rewind.
So when we first got there.
Mostly because if you didn't rewind it, it cost an extra $1 when you returned it.
Yeah, it cost money if you didn't rewind it when you took it back.
Yeah.
But he wasn't allowed to touch the buttons after he put a grilled cheese sandwich in there.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so.
But like, here's the funny thing too. I'm not the only kid that does that. Because if you look at
it's shaped like that.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The
The VHS slot is shaped like perfectly shaped for a sandwich to fit in.
So, we get there, and Barbara and I are teasing him about what he's going to make for dinner. And he's like, I'm 4, I can't make dinner. I can't cook.
I would like to point out that Barbara is the woman that had a t-shirt that said, I'm not a bitch, I'm the bitch, and that's Miss Bitch to you.
Correct.
And she lived that. She was also a very strong-willed woman.
That is true. Which I think helped Hatter through his childhood because she picked on him a lot.
Yeah.
And so it got him a little bit more thicker skin because he would be upset when she would do it.
And be able to
and come back with
and
some...
I've always said that. Like, she's did it out of love because the world wouldn't.
Right.
And so...
And I used to tell, because he would be very upset. I'm like, why? Why do you let her upset you? You know she's going to do it.
Yeah.
So you need to, like, think of something as a comeback, and you know that she's going to pick at you, or, and... You know she loves you, so this isn't her being like mean. She's trying to play with you, which I think helped you a lot.
Oh,
as
definitely,
you got older.
100%, yeah.
And I couldn't change her, and honestly, she's very much like it was teaching him a lesson, even though it was difficult at first for you to learn it. So anyway, I asked him we asked him what he was cooking for dinner, and he said,
like when the cookie in the disk drive or cheese in the floppy disk. Yeah, those are also the same.
All the same kind of.
Yeah.
So we asked him what he was making for dinner, and he said, I'm 4, I can't cook. So we put in the movie, we're playing in the computer, and I hear the music at the end.
The end credits, yeah.
And Hatter always said, it's time to rewind, it's time to rewind. He was very excited about it and reminding me that we had to rewind it. But I never heard it's time to rewind.
Which is why you knew something was up.
So something was up.
So it's when the kids are a little too quiet.
So when kids do stuff out of their routine,
They're up to something.
something's up.
Yeah.
And that's where the eyes in the back of the head come from.
Mm-hmm.
If the kid always gets a drink of water from the faucet,
I'm trying to rewind. That's cute. Oh,
when they always get a drink from the faucet, but suddenly they say they're getting a drink and you don't hear the faucet, something's not right.
Yeah.
So your you learn their patterns, and when their patterns are off, you're like, uh-oh.
And it's the funny thing too of it's I'm going to do something I'm not supposed to, so I'm going to do everything I can to not be seen.
Right,
but
be
that's
quiet.
exactly how you get caught.
Yes.
Because it's not what you normally do.
So my dad, Bim, loved Nestle Quick, and it used to come in this huge canister, like a paper canister.
Like I'm imagining the size of the coffee, the big red coffee.
Kind of like
container.
that. It might have been a little skinnier and taller, but it's something very
along those
similar.
lines, yeah.
And it always sat by the couch because he'd get a big glass of milk at night and put it in there and watch TV. And when Barbara and I was like, something's up. He hasn't said rewind. It's time to rewind. It's time to rewind. So we went in there, and there sat my son with a huge spoon, a cup of water, my dad's huge bucket of Nestle Quick, powder everywhere, almost the consistency of mud all down his shirt, in the thing, and looked at me with a big smile, and I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm making dinner.
Teaching you to joke about me making dinner.
And then I couldn't even be mad because
you told me to make dinner.
I told him we messed with him and said, aren't you making dinner tonight? I couldn't even be mad, so I was like, oh my god. I was like, I know.
Your actions have consequences.
Yes, now I gotta tell Grandpa he doesn't have any Nestle Quick either. So
which he found, if I remember correctly, you said he found the situation funny, but not that he had no Nestle Quick left.
He did find it hilarious though. It's like, that's what you get. Hence, teaching them to be independent's a good thing, and sometimes it bites you in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
So.
This is how you did it?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I actually enjoyed this maybe more than I thought I would.
I'm glad. That's how you were feeling, because you definitely seem to have perked up.
Yeah, well, I got perked up talking, but now I'm sleepy because COVID's a bitch.
Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to say before we sign off?
No, it's just finally nice to see a little bit about what you do, and and I love Eli. At least I know.
I'm a little surprised Professor Chaos didn't come by, but because I entirely expected it. Because whenever he sends me a lot of money, I just shut down. I don't know how to respond. I'm just like, and so that's what I was expecting someone to do that to me during the middle of the conversation.
I would have wanted to do it too.
Chat bullies with love. That's how the chat relationship was.
I can see that.
So, I just want to double check. Yeah, okay, it's still going. Yeah, okay.
Well, thank you for those who listened, because I don't know if I didn't want to listen to like a family member. I think I might have thought it would be boring, or.
But the family has so much interesting history, and all the weird. If I did, I wouldn't do it via Twitch. The family has such an interesting history.
Oh yeah, and there's lots more that we didn't say.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't remember most of them, but I need to write as many of them down as possible, just to have them.
Yeah.
Because MD is right. It would make a very interesting show.
Well, and it'd be interesting to see your dad's point of view from some of them as well.
Mm.
Because he met my family and was a little bit scared of them, as you probably should have been.
I enjoyed listening a lot. Good.
Yeah, so. But I do feel like I need a nap.
Yeah. Alright, well, then I will sign off. So this is how we usually sign off. Oh, actually, let me double check something real quick. No, okay. those that want to be caught up with what I am doing during the Discord, there is a section of the Discord for shitposts and fan art. When if someone posts makes fan art or just makes a joke live while I'm live, they can put it in the Discord and we look at it at the end.
Okay.
People don't usually do it, but it's always there. For everyone else, thank you all so much for joining us. All the new faces, all the old faces, all the friends and all the strangers that get to become my friends. And those in the future with the time machines, thank you as well. And until next time, don't forget to spread the weird.
Love you, bye.
Love you, but actually, hold on. Is there anyone? No. Okay. Yeah, love you, bye. Don't forget to spread the weird.